Hello! Hey guys, and welcome to my top 5 game series of all times video. I haven't actually put up a serious bigger video in a while because I've actually been moving houses, and because of that I haven't really had much time to go and play Battlefield and whatever with a bunch of my mates, but hopefully I'll be doing a lot more of that soon. But until then, I thought I'd do this video to tide you over and tell you all what my top 5 game series is of all time. I thought I'd let you guys know what my top 5 game series of all time are. Basically how this is going to work is I'm going to tell you 3 things about a game series that I love. Number 1, my first experience ever playing that game. Number 2, which game in the series I think is the worst. And number 3, which game I think is the best in the series and why. And this should be pretty self-explanatory, but this is just my top 5 games. So if you disagree with me, that's fine and you're more than welcome to, but I have a deep attachment to these game series and I love them. And hell, I would love to know what you know, so tippity tappity tap in the comments. Okay, let's get this started with number 5, the Little Big Planet series. I think Little Big Planet is amazing, and it is a kid's game, and it is silly, and there's nothing really to it. It doesn't really have a serious storyline or even that complex multiplayer. Yeah, I just love it. My first experience playing the game was I went over to a friend's place and he had a PlayStation 3. I never had a PlayStation 3 until a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I had actually heard about Little Big Planet way before then when it was coming out. I was not even remotely interested. When I did go over his house, I finally did have a chance to play it. In the game they have this thing called the Moon, which is more or less like the area you make your own levels using the level creation kit. And using that, we used to just make the craziest skateboard maps and just basically make a plethora of traps to kill each other or maim each other or just backstab each other, and it was a lot of fun, and I don't know, we really quite enjoyed it. So which one is the worst, Little Big Planet? Well, I'm gonna try and keep this brief. Little Big Planet cut. Nothing against the game, it is just so meh. It's so meh. There's nothing great about it. There's nothing even remotely good about it, but it's not bad, it's not terrible, it's just so mediocre. It is a okay functioning kart game that's in one hand trying to rip off, of course, Mario Kart, and then in the other hand trying to rip off the other PS3 exclusive kart racer, Mod Nation Races. Karting and Mod Nation Races are both made by the same people, and it's a shame they just didn't copy some of the mechanics over, because this comes across feeling really dry. And for a game that prides itself on its imagination, it is just bland and lacks imagination. And what's the best Little Big Planet game? Well, it's complicated. What I think is fundamentally the best game is the Vita one, because the level creation kit is far more vast. I actually think the story is far more interesting, as stupid and childish as it is. But unfortunately, Little Big Planet 2 is too deep in my heart. Once again, going over to my mate's place, playing that for hours on end, trying to kill each other, doing stupid stuff. A lot of fun, I'll never forget it. Little Big Planet 2. And so we come to number 4, the Resistance series. My first experience with any of the Resistance games was once again with the same guy I used to play Little Big Planet with. And it was a case of, we went to the video store and we wanted to rent out a game just to play over the weekend. And it happened to be Resistance 2. The game was good, the game having a hard time describing how good this game is. The game has single player, multiplayer, and co-op, but at the time we were really just interested in plowing through the single player campaign because it was so good. So good. This is a wildly underloved game. Even from other Resistance fans that I know of, consider it maybe the worst. I just find that absolutely crazy. The whole thing was so polished and it was so scary, and anyone who's played it knows that one level in broad daylight where you shat yourself because it was so bloody scary. And it's the only game I've ever seen that actually made me so terrified to be in broad daylight. Oh, just remarkable. What is the low point in the series? The worst Resistance game? Resistance Burning Skies. This game is awful. It is dreadful. It is so bad. It's unbelievable. I could go on all day just how underwhelming and kind of crap this game is. The game is weak, it has no story, I really don't like it. And seeing as it's the most recent game, it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth as the closing of the Resistance series. I doubt we'll ever see another one. I think that's kind of a shame. Whatever, life goes on. What is the best Resistance game, you ask? Well, Resistance Retribution, of course. No, it's not actually a joke, I do actually genuinely think this is the best game. It is a PSP game, and it is undoubtedly, this is probably on a list for another day, it's not only the best Resistance game, it's probably one of my favourite shooters of all time, and one of my favourite games of all time in general.
The Chimera have wiped out an entire continent. I've been fighting for 2 years, and now this war has taken everything from me.
I took school off. I took school off for the day when it came out, and I plowed through the thing in about 3 days. The game has game mechanics so that if you have Resistance Retribution and Resistance 2 and you plug the PSP into the PS3, you'll unlock new weapons and a new game mode on this. It's worth saying that when you actually turn the system off of the PSP, it would wipe the infection off your PSP, so you would lose all the weapons. This resulted in me renting out the games many times, going over to my mate's place who had a PS3, plugging them together, getting the weapons, and not turning the PSP off for weeks so that I wouldn't lose the weapons. You wouldn't lose your progress in game, just the weapons and the game mode. So so there were many a re-renting when the thing ran out of battery. Many. I love this game. I love it. And so we come to number 3. Now this was a hard choice for me, choosing this between 3 and 2 on the list. I flipped back between these two so many times that I finally nailed it down to which game I would want to play right now, if I could. And with that, my number 3 game is Gears of War for the Xbox 360. Gears of War is great. I love it. It is fantastic. It is the first third-person shooter I've ever played, and it will forever be one of the best third-person shooters I've ever played. Mechanically, all the games are great, and I think they hold up to other first-person shooters such as Halo or Call of Duty or Battlefield or whatever your views are on this bro shooter. It is truly a fantastic series if you just need to sit down and play through the story. And I'll be the first to admit that the first game's story is kind of trash. 2 and 3, brilliant. If it was just 2 games being 2 and 3, because you can kind of just skip number 1, it doesn't really matter, it would still be one of the best game series I've ever played. My first experience playing it, not as elaborate as all my other game experiences. I was at school, everyone was talking about this new game, Gears of War, and how great it was and how hard the end boss was. I didn't have an Xbox 360 at the time, so when I did actually finally have the opportunity to get an Xbox 360, I went and the first game I got for it was Gears of War 1. I played through it and I loved it. I didn't quite appreciate it as much. I thought it was it was a pretty good game. It was not until Gears of War 2 came out that my mind was blown. I still think Gears of War 2 is better than Gears of War 3. Ooh. What is the worst game? Well, serious note. Anyone who knows me knows how much I love to collect games. I can't help it. I just love, even if I don't even play the games, I will buy them and just like having them on display because I love just having a big collection. It is with that I am so unimpressed with one of the games. I don't even own it. I even own bad games, but I refuse to buy this. I refuse to have this game in my house. It is fucking dreadful. That is the only real way I can describe it. That game would be, I'm just gonna put up the picture here. Boop. Gears of War Judgment. What a shocking game. It is shocking. It is bad. Me and Dipcheese, who you may remember from a couple of my other Battlefield videos and my Towerfall videos, when the game came out we were both pretty excited and we both bought it the same day. We went home and we went on Xbox Live and we played it all the way until halfway through in the game, and then we went and sold it because it is dreadful. The best game in the series. Oh, I spoiled it for myself. This doesn't have a name on it. This is the special edition case. I refuse to get rid of it. So many good memories. Comes with a DVD. Gears of War 2. Game is brilliant. Game is fun. I still think it has the best horde. It is slow. It is tactical. It has the best single player campaign in my opinion, where the third one left a whole ton of plot threads dangling. This one actually neatly tied itself up pretty nicely. It has the best team multiplayer in my opinion because once again, it's so slow, it forces you to be with your teammates and to like plan things out, and if someone gets down, you need to be close enough to go and revive them before they get killed. Great game. Number 2, what will it be? What will be number 2? As I said, I tossed up between Gears of War and this several times, but I've come to really appreciate this game series in the last 12 months. The Infamous series. Oh, Infamous 1 was Infamous 1 tried really hard and pretty successfully to blend a game world and a game story with what you might see in a comic book, with comic book cutscenes, but no cell shading, which, hey, good work, no cell shading. It was really, really good and led the stage onto the next good game, Infamous 2. Infamous 2 was slightly less an attempt to try and blend the comic and video game styles, but just as successful, as it actually had far more powers, a far more interesting city, and far more to do in general, and not to mention it being a lot faster than Infamous 1. Infamous 1, as much as I love it, I will admit it suffers a little bit from slowness in the beginning. After you've got your power set about halfway through the game, you're fine, you're good, you can zip around the city and do what you want, but the first 3 to 4 hours can be a bit of a slog trying to acquire those powers. Infamous 2 does the ballsy thing of actually just starting you off with a complete power set right from the get-go. It doesn't actually do the God of War thing where it'll find some excuse to pull your powers away so you can't use them, you have to go reacquire them. It starts you off with every power right from the get-go. You can enjoy yourself from the first moment. Good game. And then the most recent game, Infamous Second Son, it was okay. My first experience playing the games, it was same as Resistance and Little Big Planet. Went over to my mate's place who had a PS3. He was a huge fan, probably a bigger fan than I am of Infamous. He said, you gotta sit down and play Infamous 1. I played it for a little bit. Infamous 2 came out, you gotta sit down and play a little bit of Infamous 2. I got about halfway through the game and I went home. It wasn't until about a year and a half ago that I actually finally got a PS3 and had a chance to sit down with them. Holy crap. These games have tell you what, these games have a complex and fantastic story. Seriously, something on par with the best comic book stories that you've probably read. I won't spoil it for you now, but the ending to Infamous 1 is, no joke, one of my favorite video game endings ever. I can't even imagine having to have had waited from when Infamous 1 came out to when Infamous 2 came out. That would have just driven me fucking batshit crazy. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Luckily, I got into the Infamous party real late. The games were available to me. I finished Infamous 1. I was tired. I remember it being about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, finally, this game is done. It's good. I can go to bed. And then it finished. I was like, fuck. It was that good. Infamous 1 ends in a way where it not only tells you, yeah, there will be fighting in the next game, but it was the first game in the series. It wasn't popular, and the first, like, Sucker Punch, the guys who made the game, didn't have an amazing pedigree at the time, so who knew if there was going to be another one. But they let you know, if there is going to be another one, shit is going to go down, and this is the main bad guy for the game that you will be fighting. It ends by telling you the bad guy and the power of the bad guy of the next game at the end of the first. Best game. Super quickly, Infamous 2. Yeah. This fucking game. Customizable costumes, weapons, power sets. It does what no other of the Infamous games do by actually letting you tweak and not only just switch power sets on the go, but switch the powers within the sets on the go. At any moment you could be firing with one weapon and go, hey, I would totally love just to have another one, and you can just swap straight to a second power, or just have another variation of a power and just play it and enjoy it and love it. Worst game in the series, I think this is a little harsh calling it the worst game. It's still a fine game. It just doesn't even come close to reaching how good the other two games are. Second Son. I'm sorry, it did come out recently. It is just so, arguably, I say this for everyone else, it is probably the funnest game to play. It is so fast, it's beautiful. The powers are very powerful. There's a lot you can do, but there's not much to do. The game really only has about 12, maybe 15 hours worth of content in it in a single playthrough. Well, if you want to go back and play it as a bad guy instead of a good guy, once again, you'll maybe get another 15 hours out of it, but like, it caps itself there. There is nothing else to it. The story isn't interesting enough to really even make you want to play a second playthrough. Not to mention it actually kind of shits on, sorry to be crude about that, but it really does kind of just shit on the ending of Infamous 2, which is made to be a capper, like the end of a saga. It's fine. You're allowed to enjoy it. It's not the best. The best being this one. Oh, number one. No money is given to anyone who can guess what my number one would be. My number one, to surprise absolutely no one who's talked to me about video games ever before, and I'll keep this quick because I've ranted on about enough in my lifetime about how much I love these games. The Metal Gear Solid series on PS1 and onwards. I love the games, I love how quirky they are, I love how dumb they are, I love everything about them. The perfect epitome for me of why people play games is that they're fun to play. Yeah, good stories are great, and this one does have a good story, but it's like underneath all this wacky shit and plot threads that are like looped into each other, and it's just a mess to try and untangle. It is just so fun because every time you play it, the jokes are still wacky and dumb, and scenarios are still pretty stupid, and the characters are still interesting, and every time you play it, you get to untangle just a little bit more of that story. Why am I only holding the one game? Because I actually have more Metal Gear games collectively than every single other game in this top 5 list combined. That's not really saying anything about how many Metal Gear games there have been. There have been a lot. There have been a fair bit, but I own, once again, at least 2 copies of every main game, and then 1 and a bit of all the other spin-offs. It's a bit of a mess, but for argument's sake, I'll show you. So these are all Metal Gear games. And I love them. First experience playing the game, once again, the same guy as the other time. We had a lot of really good gaming experiences together. I had bought this very copy of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker from EB Games on a whim because, hey, it said it was a shooter on the back, and I liked shooting games. Shooting games are fun. Went home and I played it, and I thought it was fine, and I forgot it. I pressured him into buying the game so we could play the cooperative mode. Didn't care for the story, didn't care for a lot of it. It was a fun distraction. Then, probably about 5-6 years later, I was living in a share house, freshly moved from Yeppoon, newly living in Brisbane, in a share house with 40 people. Yeah, 40 people. And one of the guys said, hey, have you ever played a Metal Gear game? And I was like, I have. I played Peace Walker. And he was like, that's the only one I haven't played, but the others are really good. And I was like, well, you know, I've never actually played them, but I'll give them a try. And so I went on my Vita, and I went onto the store and I downloaded a digital copy of Metal Gear Solid 1. I finished it, and I thought it was really decent. The problem that you find with a lot of the old games, particularly earlier than PS2 and the original Xbox, is that they just don't hold up very well. In all honesty, I think this is probably one of the best games that has held up being an old game. It is still enjoyable to play, and because it was such a landmark at the time when it came out of cinematic storytelling and of gameplay, it's still actually fun to play, and the campaign is spoiled. I think it's the least silly and easiest to understand of all the games. You can actually play this and still enjoy it today. From there, I casually went and bought the HD collection. I played those. I actually played 3 before 2. Thought they were really decent. From there, I went and replayed Peace Walker for the first time in half a decade. I thought it was really good. Then I had the opportunity to play 4. At this point, I was like, those are good games. Didn't really understand them, but they were fun enough. And then, I don't really know what happened. Something clicked. I don't know. Something in my brain broke, and it's like, let's just play them all again in a single go. And I started with the first one. I played through the entire series. I just fell in love with it. It was absolutely amazing. Super quickly, best game in the series, Metal Gear Solid 1. Weakest game in the series, Metal Gear Solid 4. Whew. That is my top 5 video game series of all times, plus the best ofs, the worst of, and then a whole other league of ranting and gibberish. Anyway, so that's it. Thank you for watching. A couple of the games that missed out, Uncharted, I was tempted to put that in, especially over Little Big Planet. Other games that missed out was, man, I really wanted to put Fallout 3 on this list. I only played it recently, and it's so fucking good. It is really, really, really good. The only reason I didn't put it on the list is because I haven't played any of the other ones. I think that would be a little unfair. I wouldn't be able to say what the worst one is. But yeah, so one day I might be able to make a video on them once I'm finished New Vegas, and maybe if I dip my toes into the waters of the earlier games. Siphon Filter series as well. A bit unknown. Not many people have played the Siphon Filter games. I love them, and I'm telling you now, they're making another one. It's going to come out soon. Hasn't been a console Siphon Filter since PS1, but PS4, baby. Woo! So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I really hope you guys have enjoyed. And I would really love to know what your favourite game series is of all time. So please let me know. I would really love to hear your suggestions, or even if you thought mine were a bit crap. So yeah, hopefully if people like this, I can make another one soon. Thanks for watching. If you did like, subscribe, because I love making these videos and I love people watching them. If you liked it enough, share it with your friends so they can enjoy it, because once again, you know, share the love. It's all good, baby. So, cool. Thanks for watching. Bye.